Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the We Too All Liberians Movement platform, your distinctive dynamic platform that speaks to and for the masses. We are not in the business of manufacturing players, pimps, and hustlers. Rather, we are in the business of changing and revolutionizing the thought process of our people, not only in Liberia, but even around the world. Again, this is your one and only platform, the We Too All Liberians Movement platform that speaks to and for the masses. We are not in the business of manufacturing players, pimps, and hustlers. Rather, we are in the business of changing and revolutionizing the thought process of our people, not only in Liberia, but even around the world. Today is Tuesday, July 23rd. I am your host, as usual, Ayiti Williams. We're going to be broadcasting from our home studio. What I want to talk about today, first and foremost, I as we approach July 26th, which is our Independence Day, the Independence Day of the Republic of Liberia. I wanted to come and kind of talk about a topic that we are going to be discussing here, and it's going to be streamed live, hopefully on July 26th. So I want you to look up for that. It's going to be streamed probably on YouTube. It's going to be on Facebook as well as Instagram. Again, this is the We Too All Liberians Movement platform. You're one on the platform that's in the business of decolonizing the minds and our thought process. What's today's topic? As we know, July 26th is about 3 days away. Pretty much it's going to be on, what's today? Today is Tuesday, so we got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So July 26th is scheduled for Friday. And we're going to be having a massive celebration. But what I want to kind of draw your attention to, because I know, usually when we have birthdays, we kind of just, celebrate, and sometimes we don't kind of have reflections. And what I want us to do is, I guess, we talk about time several months ago. Time has three dimensions of time is we consider the past, our present, as well as the future. So now let's get into today's topic. The topic for today is, and I want you to actually, what I want you to do also, I want you to kind of really reflect on our topic today, and hopefully you can kind of, digest it, reevaluate, assess, reassess, and then just kind of, think about it. And as you approach the day, or as we celebrate the day, you can kind of just, think about the significance of that day. So the topic for today is pretty much straightforward. What's the meaning of July 26th for the Americo-Liberians and the Indigenous of the land? Again, what's the meaning of July 26th, and the Indigenous of the land? That is Motherland Liberia. I think it's a pretty interesting topic that all of us should be concerned about, because a lot of times I know we celebrate birthdays, and, those are days that, it's good for celebration, but it's time that we do not just, swallow up the moment or swallow up the day with joyful celebration. Also a day that we should do some reflection, and it's time for us to look over or look down over all that we've been through, and thank God for what He has brought us and where He's taken us. So as we celebrate, July 26th this year, I want us to kind of really, really do our assessment. So in order to discuss this, because this is a pretty interesting topic, and I think this topic is, not only is it interesting, but it's also, I think it's kind of sensitive. But what this topic is going to do is going to give you an insight. It's going to sensitize us. As we all know, the objective of this platform is to reinvigorate your mind, is to also broaden your sight, is to decolonize your mind, the mindset, to take us out of that box. Because a lot of people are just going to celebrate this day. They're not going to even sit down and have reflections. And you know, because and the reason why it's going to happen, because a lot of us are stuck in this box. And what I want you to know here is that, you know, boxes are for things and not people. What did I say? Boxes are for things and not people. And that's why it's important that we step out of the box, you know, as we, you know, get involved, as we celebrate and, you know, just commemorate this particular day. So again, the real question, which is our topic for today, what's the meaning of July 26th for the Americo-Liberians and the Indigenous of the land? That's a pretty straightforward question. And what I want, you know, our viewers to do today, if you have some kind of, you know, point or something that you want to share, you have a sentiment or you have a statement or a rebuttal, something of that nature, you can kind of dial in and we can begin this conversation. So, as we all know, I think I talked about this before. 50 years even before the abolition of slave trade, blacks were, or the leaders of America, I'm talking about slave masters, were concerned about what were they going to do with these ex-slaves, because these ex-slaves now were even growing in numbers, and there were potential that these people will get powerful, come back and retaliate. So slave trade or slavery is being abolished gradually, because there was slave masters, there was slaves down south, and there was slaves on the north side of the country. So now, what they were concerned about, you know, we need to find a place, you know, and this is as a result of the transatlantic slave trade that actually brought a huge number of our people, you know, blacks to this country. So that now they have decided that, you know, we have to find a spot. South America probably would have been an option, maybe was an option. But what was even more intriguing to them, maybe we should find a place somewhere around their motherland to kind of, you know, go and deposit them. So the idea actually was more of an experiment, by not now. I wouldn't say the country itself, but, you know, I would say the leaders in collaboration with the American Colonization Society, which we do call the ACS. So now by 1816 they went down on the continent, and they began to do their assessment. And so they already knew exactly along the west coast of Africa that particular part of Africa was kind of well suited for that purpose of repatriating or resetting our people. So now, by 1822, the land is founded. Liberia now becomes a colony, and by 1847, Liberia had gained independence. And again, not to sound redundant, because I think I've talked about this before. By 1847, Liberia gained her independence, but we know for a fact that the United States did not recognize Liberia as an independent country, not until 1862, and we know the reason why. I said that before in a couple of my lives, and that was because of the Civil War, you know, that America was entangled with. So now Liberia gained her independence, and we know that it was a handful. The American Colonization Society, as well as group of these ex-slaves now established themselves as an independent country. So what I'm driving out here is that why should these people declare themselves an independent nation when they got to what was not Liberia at the time? There were already indigenous people that were living there. So you have these people now who were brainwashed, who were once upon a time, you know, should I say colonized, or these people were treated as slaves, and I think I went through this before, talked about how they were mistreated, how they were marginalized, and so all they knew, you know, I went over the story of Saul, who became Paul, how he I'm using that as a premise just to give you a clear understanding as to why this major divide occurred. And now one guy or one group of people, independence, was actually the beginning of another group of people, the sufferings of another group of people who will be marginalized, who will be ostracized, who will be minimized, who will be treated as second-class individual. And we know for a fact, during the transatlantic slave trade, when these people were brought to the West, to the United States of America, we know how they were treated. They were marginalized. They were deprived of the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So exactly what these people were taught is what they're going to do. And just to give you clarity, I use the story of Saul again, who became Paul. Paul, we know he came from the tribe of Benjamin, circumcised on the 8th day of his birth, perhaps was tutored at the feet of the Rabbi Gamaliel. He went to the University of Jerusalem. But all this young man he was taught to hate. And, so now he and his compatriots, now they receive word from the seat of the high priest to go across territorial lines to begin to kill people. And we know that as he's on his way now to Damascus, he had this one big encounter. And at that particular time when he had the encounter, he got thrown off his horse. We know exactly what happened, got blinded. He was sent to a place called Straight Street. Long story short, now this dude is no longer prosecuting people. He would no longer prosecute these people. But you know what? Would now be begin to advocate for these people, will protect these people, educate these people. But on the contrary, now the independence of these individuals who with all they were taught to be marginalized, they were deprived of the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They were disenfranchised. They were treated as second-class, individuals. They were denied the right to vote, and things of that nature. They were denied the basic essentials of life. Can you imagine? You a slave. You have a slave master who has a church, or a slave master who has a farm. He has a big house. But you know what? Just because you were black and you were a slave, you were being ostracized and marginalized. You can't eat on the same table with your slave master. You can't even sit in the same chair with your slave master. You're not allowed to go to school. You're not allowed to learn. You're not allowed to just socialize with these people because you're treated as a second-class animal. And I'm not saying this to create hate, but the real truth is we want to get into this so we can know exactly what caused the divide and how these people who went over, now trying to get their independence is their independence. But the one guy, is going to be marginalized. He's going to be disenfranchised. He's going to be deprived of his right, his right to vote, his right to education, his right to, just not only education, to employment, his right to the national cake. But yet, the country is now independent. So the real question here tonight is what's the meaning of July 26th for the Americo-Liberians and the Indigenous of the land, those who were already on the land? They've been deprived. So how do we sit down at the round table, begin to talk about this to see how we can kind of move forward? One would say, oh, you know what? We're going to celebrate July 26th. It's good to celebrate this day. Like I say, I think this is a time for us to sit down and reflect on look at this country, a country that has been around for more than 170 some more years. Yet we are still going through the turmoil. Yet we are still going through division. Yet we are still going through, one group of people being marginalized. And the reason why this is happening because the fact that those who declare this country independent or independence now, did exactly what they were taught. I am not trying to preach hate or I'm not trying to teach hate, but I think it's important for us to kind of discuss this, and this independence that we are talking about was not something strategic where they sat down to thought about, what is good, what our constitution, what type of people do we want to be, what type of country we want to be, what type of educational system we want. But everything that they did, everything that they established was pretty much a photocopy of the United States of America. So as we celebrate this day, one would say, look, you're trying to actually preach or propagate a message that is pretty much focused on divide. But what I'm trying to pretty much kind of talk about today is that because the question has to be answered. What does it mean? One man was marginalized, and what he did, should he be blamed for that? What he did, because the Americo-Liberians were pretty much historically were sold to doing the transatlantic slave trade. So what was the same African that actually traded those people? Now they travel to the West. They are back to their motherland now. What they were taught, everything that had been given to them, in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, in terms of the way that they carry themselves, the way that they administer or govern was pretty much what they were taught. So the real truth is, I believe that July 26th actually marks the beginning, or was a day that brought about the liberation and the actual independence of one group of people, but actually was the beginning of one group of people being marginalized. And not until 1980, we saw what happened. So this is the time that we need to sit down, reflect on what we need to do. Is Liberia truly independent? Do we truly have our independence? Are we making decisions for ourselves? What is the actual definition of independence? What does independent mean? What does independence? What does it stand for? It means we are liberated. And if we're liberated, if we're independent, we have independent minds. We think for ourselves. I just used for a classical or a sterling example. I talked about, being put in a box. So everything that they learn, and that's what I'm saying, speaks to the fact that we are all born, good. We are all born, with good morals, good values. But until we are taught to be evil, we're going to be good. So it is because of what these people were taught. Should we blame them? And to take it a step further, I think this situation has brought a lot of confusion. So this is a perfect opportunity now for us to kind of come together. In my perspective, we're going to try to research this a little bit more, and so that we can sit at this round table as we get this going on a bigger platform. I just want you to kind of sit down and think about what this day is all about. Is Liberia truly independent? Is July 26th the day that we celebrate our true independence? Are we free? What does it mean for the Americo-Liberians? What does it mean for the Indigenous? What does it mean for the ordinary guy? And it's sad that we gain independence, but we're still copied. I'm not going to be repetitive, but I have to go back and forth. Our Constitution is a replica of the United States Constitution. Our streets pretty much, it was just a photocopy. Our municipalities, everywhere that you go, and if you travel to the West, if you try to travel to the great United States of America, it's pretty much, which those settlements pretty much named after. But I think on the flip side, it means a lot for the Americo-Liberians, because they now found a place that they could govern themselves. They found a place that they could do whatever, quote unquote, they thought was the right thing. They took advantage of the disadvantage. But should we blame them? So now the guy with the indigenous guy, who at the time, who pretty much at some point in time had an opportunity, now the two, everything came into the picture with hate because he felt as though he was marginalized, and because he was marginalized, now this has already created a major divide. So we need to sit down and think about and reflect on how we can bridge the gap as we celebrate this 170 some more years of independence. Independence actually means freedom. So what does it mean for the Americo-Liberians, and what does it mean for the Indigenous? Were the Americo-Liberians truly free? Did they really got their independence? Because if you were independent, it means that you have the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You control your resources. You control your you not only your natural resources, your human resources. Your constitution is customized to fit your people. Unfortunately, our people were not given or did not give themselves that opportunity to sit down and pen. Because the real truth is, what they penned, what they wrote. Think about your flag. Your flag is a replica of the United States flag of America. One may not be very happy with me, but the real truth is there's no innovation. So the indigenous now is being marginalized. But the story is so synonymous because during that process, you can see that some of the Americo-Liberians also did exactly what slave masters in the great United States of America did, because they were able to incorporate some of the indigenous. They started learning. Their names would change just like they did them. So they were branded because, some of them became Williams, and this is, the story is so synonymous. Because I would say Mamadi, who actually came at the time who came during the transatlantic slave trade, he was branded, his name was changed, and so he started having kids. His kids actually took on the slave master's name. So he went back. Now with that mentality and that ideology, he's doing the same thing that they did to him. So, and you too, you're doing the same. When they went back, they did the same thing to the indigenous. And then what happened? The indigenous, the ones who were educated under the Americo-Liberians, who had gained their independence, now begin to marginalize these guys. But some of them started going to school, learning how to read and write, this and that and the other. So we've had a trickle-down effect. So the real question again, this trickle-down effect now has affected our country, is affecting our country, yet and still, in my perspective, I don't think that we are independent. But the real question that I'm asking today, what's the meaning of July 26th for the Americo-Liberians and the indigenous of the land? I think that's a great question that we should reflect on. And like I said before, we begin to reflect on the past. We consider our current condition, and then we can look ahead. Again, this is the We Too All Liberians Movement platform, your distinct and dynamic platform that speaks to and for the masses. We are not in the business of manufacturing players, pimps, and hustlers. Rather, we are in the business of changing and revolutionizing the thought process of our people, not only in Liberia, but even around the world. I don't think this day is only a day that we should just have celebration. We have sucker game and then we have all these big events, but we don't go into the history and give some background and also think about ways in which we can mitigate some of the problems. Because I think what's happening here, Liberia, my perspective, I'll consider myself a Liberian and an indigenous. I think there's still a divide. But if we were to answer the question, I don't know what your answer would be. What is the meaning of July 26th for the Americo-Liberians and the Indigenous of Liberia, or the Indigenous of the land? This is not to kind of propagate or pontificate here, something negative, or to speak to, create division, but the real truth is so that we all can sit down and just think about how this all started and how we can sit down as a people, as a unit, bridge these gaps, seal these divide so that our country can be a better place. And so now we can begin to think outside the box, because I feel as though, look at what happened in 19. One would say, why are you trying to remind people of that? Look at what led to the 1979 or 1980 coup. Why were those 13 men killed? Now, I know we are talking about independence. I know we're talking about July 26th, a day that we should be celebrating. But the real truth is, are we really celebrating our true freedom? Are we really celebrating the liberation or the independence of a country in its entirety? Or there's still a divide? I tell you once again, we have to revolutionize the thought process of our people. And that's what it is. I think a lot of our people are stuck up in the box. And I'll repeat myself, boxes are for things and not people. So we have to think outside the box. If you just on Friday, if you think this day, for those of you in Liberia and even in the diaspora, I think this is the time that we reflect on our past. Consider our current condition. Look at our country. Look at the current condition of our people. And then just think about, where are we going? What are the strategic plans? We can see that, the country is still struggling. And this is the time that we can only bridge this gap if we definitely go back to reassess and reevaluate, the meaning of true independence, the meaning of liberation, the meaning of, being free, simply put. That's what independence is all about. So I think, the independence of Liberia to the Americo-Liberian. I asked a friend of mine the last time, and I said to him, what's your perspective? And he told me it means a lot for the Americo-Liberians. It means a lot because this particular day marks a new beginning for these people. This particular day marks a day that they had their freedom, independence, to do, whatever but can we say that the independence that they had, the independence was actually an independence that brought about total freedom, liberation, as a country? I think that was the beginning again of another mental slavery. But the real truth is, in my opinion, I feel as though that the indigenous were being marginalized to a large extent. And this is because, the Americo-Liberians also, all they were taught to hate, they were taught to be divisive, they were taught to marginalize, disenfranchise one group of people as they, just enjoy the national wealth or take over the natural resources and dominate, suppress one group of people. But can we really blame them? We can't blame them. So, as I close, the show today was not to create division, but I just want us to kind of, again, as we celebrate the day, I hope that we're not just swallowing the moment. We are looking down over. I think Liberia has come a long way. A country, that struggle, a country that was established, from pain and sufferance. And so that's why, I want to close. Benjamin Elijah Mays, once said, he said it would not be sufficient for Morehouse College, or any college for that matter, to produce clever graduates, but rather produce people who are sensitive to the wrongs, the sufferings, and the injustices of society. And I feel that, people who are willing to accept responsibility for those wrongs and correcting them. And so the true independence of Liberia, the real true independence of Liberia, starts with a reflection, of, our past, considering our current condition, and also, looking ahead, So we want to thank God that we are pretty close. We're only, I'll say, a couple of days to July 26th, but I just don't want us to swallow these moments as we celebrate the day. I just want us to reflect what does, or what is the meaning of July 26th for the Americo-Liberians and the Indigenous of the land. I have been your host. This is the We Too All Liberians Movement platform, your distinct and dynamic platform that speaks to and for the masses. We are not in the business of manufacturing, players, pimps, and hustlers. Rather, we're in the business of changing and revolutionizing the thought process of our people, not only in Liberia. Again, this platform is being elevated. It's already been elevated. So we're streaming. I not only doing these motivations, trying to educate and inform our people, but also there will be other activities. So I want you to digest this. I don't know what this July 26th, what does it mean to you as a Indigenous of the land, and I don't know what it means to you as an Americo-Liberian. That's something that we can open for discussion. Again, this is the We Too All Liberians Movement. I have been your host, Ayiti Williams. I look forward to talk to you. Have a good and pleasant night. Bye.